Hello, and on behalf of the Mindalia Adaptom team, welcome. Today, Suzanne Powell is joining us to tell us about Dare to Be Your Master. Let's talk a bit about Suzanne. Suzanne Powell has dedicated his life to working and training in complementary therapies and natural medicine. She is a writer and a lecturer, and also the president of an holistic foundation. So let's not delay this any further and welcome Suzanne. How are you?
Hello, Mindalia. Here we are again. It's a pleasure to be able to share this little space and time with you.
Thanks a lot for sharing this space with us, Suzanne. It's a really pleasure for me. And well, I don't want to waste your time, so whenever you want, you can start.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to give this little talk in English, because I have so many friends around the world who are not really aware of my work, and I thought it'd be so wonderful to be able to talk a little bit about what I do. For today, I've chosen the title, Dare to Be Your Master. And that's the title of one of my 9 books. In fact, it's the only one that's in English. And it's a book that's very, very special to me. It was written in April 2013, and it was dedicated to my mum. And my mum, who's called Joy, we say Joy by name and Joy by nature, was literally practically on her deathbed when I was writing this book. So I thought I'm going to write a little dedication to her, and hopefully I will be able to hand this book to her when the time comes. So I wrote, "This book is dedicated to my dear mother, Joy Powell, who at the age of 75 recovered from a life-threatening experience which lasted 4 days, during which the idea for this book was conceived. I thank her for having chosen to continue amongst us, sharing so much fun and love. She always has been and always will be a great source of inspiration for me. I hope to be able to give her personally a copy of the book, signed in gratitude for these 50 years together. Infinite thanks. I love you beyond time and space." Well, since then, 7 years have passed, and well, the more time, the merrier. Time becomes so precious, and with the years of experience, I'm now 57 years of age, since I left my dear home city, Newry, County Down in the north of Ireland, I've lived a wealth of experiences beyond my own belief as well. I left my hometown just shortly after I finished my university degree in Belfast. And unfortunately, I had been told I had pre-cancer cells on my cervix, and I was to go down that road and find a solution for my life. I had up until then been suffering from asthma. Then when I arrived in Spain, I discovered I had sun allergy, which wasn't really good news for an Irish lady when she arrives in lovely sunny Spain. So I remember thinking, how can I get out of this? There's got to be a way. So I remember looking up into the heavens and saying, hey, if there's any kind of a chance of getting a cure for all my illnesses and my weaknesses, I promise that if I get cured, that I will dedicate my life to giving other people hope. And I don't know what happened. Somebody heard my promise, and all of a sudden things just aligned so that I would find the help that I needed along the way. And that's what started me on my track. So I began to make very, very rapid changes in my habits. Instantly, I could see the change in my health when I turned to a practically vegetarian lifestyle. When my asthma disappeared, I joined the gym. Then I was able to help other people who had the same kind of illnesses. When my sun allergy disappeared, off I was to the beaches and to go sunbathing by the lovely Spanish pools, and then get hooked on outdoor sports, doing triathlon, duathlon, cross-country running, skiing, swimming, marathons. That was a big dream come true. Having seen the film The Marathon Man, it was like, wow, what if I could do that someday, you know? But I was able to do that. And that dream was fulfilled in 1992, which was the Olympic year in Barcelona. So I was able to run that pre-Olympic marathon. It was a trial run, really, for the athletes to see if that route was okay. And it was quite amazing because I managed to finish it. You know, it wasn't so difficult after all the good hard training. But there was still something there lurking at the back of my mind. You know, there has to be something else. It cannot just be looking after your physical health. What about your emotional health, your spiritual health? What about expanding your awareness? I was going down that track after a while when I kind of got a bit saturated with information on a more scientific level. So then my search went down that road, and I discovered the Zen classes, but not talking about Buddhism, right? This is Zen more as a concept of awakening, awareness, consciousness, looking after your nervous system, finding balance, finding peace in your heart, peace in your mind, peace in your digestive system, peace in your life in general. And I think that's what all of us are really looking for. You know, I want to live in peace and I want to die in peace. But sometimes, you know, a lot of people say, I want to live in peace, but they don't let me. People won't let me live in peace. So I started my own personal pathway, you know, thinking if I can find a way to live in peace, then I can help others to live in peace. So really, I think that is going down the road of mastery, self-mastery. You know, you're looking for the way to get around circumstances when they get too difficult, and you think, you know, there's got to be another way out. So through these Zen classes, which I learned from a spiritual master, he was a Vietnamese doctor, really, I discovered the way to balance the nervous system, to find peace of mind, peace of my heart, peace of my body, and all my ailments, problems started disappearing. You know, the precancerous cells disappeared, the asthma disappeared, my intestinal problems disappeared, my boyfriend disappeared as well. So I thought, well, that's probably good news as well, especially if I wasn't feeling at peace in that particular relationship at that time. So a new version of me blossomed, and I felt happy, I felt agile, I felt, you know, I had a new outlook on life. I was smiling more, I was feeling very positive. So I thought, well, I better keep my promise. I said, if I find a cure for me, I promise that I will dedicate my life offering other people that same opportunity, or at least giving them a little glimpse of a life with hope ahead of them, you know. So up until now, I've written 9 books. And in those 9 books, I've spoken mainly of my own experience. And I think that nobody can really refute your theories and your reality if they're all based on your own personal experience. So that's what I've decided to share with the world is I am being me, I am being myself, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what people might think. I don't feel I have to save or protect or safeguard my reputation. I'm being disgustingly honest and sincere with myself, with my new style of life. And if you like that, fine. And if you don't, we'll look the other way. So it's funny that when the time came to write this book, my daughter had gone off on a school trip and she was going to be away for 4 days. And I just thought, oh, wow, being a single mum, 4 days, wow. I think I'll take off to a beach. Maybe I'll go to a close by island. I was living in Barcelona at that time. And I thought, it'd be nice to get away. So why not take off? Oh, no, sorry, just thinking, going back a little bit. No, I'd just recently moved to Madrid. So I was anxious to get away to the coast. But all of a sudden, I got this, like a sort of a message, a sign, a signal. Something just clicked in my head. And I heard the words in my mind, go to the mountain and write the book. Now, previously in 2012, in December, I had received a message through meditation, through dreams. In the future, you are going to write a book that will be called Dare to Be Your Master. And I just thought, would that be the book that I'm supposed to write? So I thought, well, go to the mountain. What mountain? So I sat down by my computer and I just went into Google. And the first mountain that came up was a mountain close by here to Madrid. So I got in touch with a friend who's a publisher, and I said, have you any plans? Do you fancy going up a mountain with me? That kind of crazy kind of like proposal, wasn't it? And he said, well, actually, I'm going off on a long trip. And he said, but maybe I could postpone it for a couple of days and we could do that together. So off we went up the mountain and he said, what are you going to write? I said, I have no idea. So I just sat down and I meditated. And it was just as if the whole book was dictated to me in my mind. And I would sit down with him for 2 hours. He was sitting in front of me with his computer. And I was just sitting cross-legged. And it was just all coming out of my mouth. And it was just himself and me sitting there together. There was nobody else in the whole hotel. It was pre-season, so they were just getting started in April. And it was very funny because the cleaning lady kept popping up now and again with her mop. And she was walking around this big room that we'd found downstairs with a chimney, a fireplace and 2 big seats, very cozy seats. And she was just walking around and looking at us and going away again. So the next session I would meditate and then just spilling out all these ideas that were coming to me. And he was sitting in silence, literally typing it all into the computer. Next day came, the lady appeared again. The third day came. And in the end, a very funny thing happened, She just came close to me and she tapped me on the shoulder and she said, why don't you shut up and just let that young man get on with his work? When you think of it, it was quite comical, actually, because she had no idea what I was doing. She didn't realize I was dictating a book. And he was just sort of typing it all in. So he was sitting in silence. He never said anything. He was just respecting my time. So we both burst out laughing and we had to explain to her, oh, sorry, no, I'm dictating a book to him, She says, oh, God, I just saw you every day there, blah, 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 just talking and talking nonstop. And I felt so sorry for that poor man who was just having to listen to you, going on and on. And that's how the book started, in fact. It was just so funny. So just getting into the book a little bit now, there are things that have become more and more prominent in people's lives recently. Everybody says, why do I keep seeing numbers, consecutive numbers? You like 11, 11, 22, 22, 33, 333, or, shadow numbers or mirrored numbers, 1, 2, 2, 1. And that's one of the things I explain in the book, is how to interpret the signs and the signals and things that show up like that, So we go a little bit deeper into that in the book. But the basic thing is, if you're seeing in your life these repeated numbers continually, you turn on your mobile phone and all of a sudden it's like you see the numbers in front of your eyes and you go, oh, what a coincidence, again and again and again. Stop and think. What was I thinking, or what came to mind just at the moment when I saw that number, on a car plate, or somebody gives you a phone number, or you get a new driver's license and you see a sequence of numbers. You think, well, why do those numbers pursue me? Now, the universe will talk to us in numbers. The universe is pure maths, it's mathematics all around. So if you feel a certain rapport with a number, you say it's always been my favorite number, and it keeps coming up now and again, and you stop and think, okay, it's like a response in saying, confirmation, that's it, go for it, just do it. So pay more attention to your thoughts and watch out for those numbers that keep coming again and again, before your very eyes. That's one of the major things. And then you'll see how the magic in your life starts to happen. It just keeps popping up now and again. And you're wondering, oh, how curious, I was just thinking of you. And all of a sudden you ring me. Wow, what a coincidence. No, there are no coincidences. Everything happens for a reason, but we're beginning to wake up. Very often, humans tend to be quite hard-headed. They need the slap in the face and they go, oh, what a coincidence. Again, a slap, another slap in the face. And they don't relate things. They just put it down to pure coincidence. So when you start paying more attention to what you are doing and what you are thinking and the reactions that are caused, then you start interacting with others and you start to realize that, we're all connected, really. There is no real separation, because we have something which is far more expansive beyond just our thoughts and our actions, that keeps bringing us back together again. So when we think that on another level, we are our own masters, you're connecting with a higher version of you, then you start getting out of the limited mode of what your brain thinks is the limit. You got to think outside of the box, as we say in English. So start asking, why does this happen? Why am I seeing the numbers? Why did so-and-so just pop up out of the nowhere? Why did I open the book on just the right page that gave me the answer that I needed, or the solution that I needed to a problem that was coming up in my life? And I must say that my life has been just so full of so many deep, magical experiences. And I have been put really, really on the spot in certain circumstances where I just had to play the role out with humor and being a little naughty, a little daring, putting myself at risk as well, but thinking it's all okay. It's going to work out all right. And one of those big major moments was when we were on a trip to Vietnam. We went on a humanitarian trip to help people with leprosy, poor people living really terribly in very poor hospitals. We helped out in orphanages. We were helping disaster areas with starvation. And I remember being a communist country at that time. Of course, they don't accept any kind of help on that scale. So one day the police showed up at the big house where we were staying, which was really a school that we had built. And they said, okay, off to jail. We're taking you all. And I just looked and said, oh, what a pity. All our food is prepared on the table. There were 13 of us. And I said, hey, why don't you stay and have lunch with us? And then we'll go with you to the police station. No problem. And the boss kind of like scratched his head and he said, well, actually, why don't you have your meal and we'll come back and pick you up in 1 hour? He said, oh, that's fine. No problem. Like, why could that possibly happen? They're coming to pick you up and then they say, enjoy the meal and we come back for you. It's just crazy, So, well, we obeyed. We went off to the jail with them, but we'd had enough time to prepare the strategy because obviously we couldn't tell the truth. Can't say, sorry, we've come to your communist country because you don't look after your poor people. We'll take care of them for you, not to worry. Can't do that. So I said to all my friends, I said, look, we must have just one version of the story. So I'll take responsibility. I'll speak in English and you guys speak in Catalan or French or whatever, and just let me take on the responsibility. So can you imagine? It was like a Gestapo, a situation where these big lights on me. My friends were thrown into a dark room at the end of the corridor. And I had these guys, these police officials who were interviewing me through a translator who was the receptionist of a nearby hotel, So I just played along and they were saying, what is your name? My name is Suzanne Powell. By the way, what's your name? How old are you? Oh, I'm 35. And how old are you? And all of this through the translator, what town were you in last night? And I was going, oh, yeah, it's pretty crazy. The names here in Vietnam, I'm not too sure. Maybe it was Wing Wong Wing or Wing Wing Wang or Wing Ching Chung or Ching Ching Wang. I was inventing it all, And the translator was trying to translate all of this to the officials. And I was thinking, and they were just going, what's she on about? So he would get up, another one would come. Same story. Another one would come, and then the guy translated everything. And I was just sort of spelling out all the same story over and over again, putting lots of humor into it, laughing, was saying, by the way, I'm thirsty. Can I have a cup of tea, please? Or have you nothing to nibble on? I'm getting hungry. How about a few sweets or something? And the translator was looking at me as if to go, are you not aware of where you are? He was telling me, don't say this, do say this. And I got him on my side. So it turned out to be quite funny, actually. And then a guy came, he says, all right, the next one who's coming, he speaks English, so you be careful. So this guy, this translator was on my side and he was like sort of prompting me, say this, say the other. In the end, they kind of got fed up with my play acting, and the translator said, they've told me to tell you to just say yes to everything they're going to ask you, because there's one problem. They have captured a Vietnamese lady who lives at the school house, and her version is not the same as yours. So we got to get the two versions together. They must be the same. And they want to let you go because they like you. So I thought, this is just either some kind of a trap or it could be true. So let's just go for it. What the heck? I just thought, what the heck? So then the next policeman came in and he says, your name is Suzanne Powell, right? I said, yeah, right. The whole way through the whole interview, yes. So in the end, they let us go. We were outside. They came without their uniform on, clapping me on the back, saying, "You're a funny lady. Yeah, we enjoyed it, but don't do that ever again. Don't do that in any other city, because otherwise you just disappear off the face of the map." The face of the map. So it was quite intense, actually, because when I got out of there, my friends thought that I was being tortured or that I would never appear again, and they really didn't know what was happening. They were suffering and meditating and doing mantras and everything to try and just keep calm in that dark room at the bottom of the corridor. So when we got back, then we'd been informed that in fact we had been followed for that whole week by spies on the street who were exposing our story and our travels on the news every day. And we were totally oblivious to all of this. So that's what got me out of that, just playing the role of the dumb blonde, innocent, ignorant. And it was quite a funny experience. But when we got in contact with the people who were taking care of us over there, they just said to us, "You just don't realize how dangerous that situation really was." And I said, "Well, I just went for it and thought, well, nothing to lose, just go for it. What's the worst thing that could happen? You die, so well, so what?" Just took it lightly like that. So that was one of my experiences of just self-mastery.
Thank you very much, Suzanne, for sharing all your knowledge and this funny information with us. Now, if you want, we are incorporating into our conversation some questions from the people watching us. We've got a lot, so let's start with Lillian from Argentina. She says, "Sometimes the illness is too long. What to do, when strength or hope is lost?" That's a good question.
Okay. I remember learning from my master when he taught me the Zen classes. He said, the last thing we should ever lose is hope. Meanwhile, while a human being can still breathe, there is still hope. So I would invite her to look at my videos on YouTube on the channel of Ponencias Zen, and they all have English subtitles. So there's one on healthy eating, and you can start off there. In Argentina as well, we have contacts who can help with the Zen classes or the Zen touch. And that's the way we help with the healing as well, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional healing. And sometimes that's all you need, that little help. It's the email is zenargentina@gmail.com. Or
Let's
Argentina
continue.
Zen, I'm not sure which way it is. Argentina Zen,
Argentina Zen.
right, at gmail.com.
All right, let's continue with another question. Javier Frecho from the USA says, "What is the best time to meditate?"
Hello, Javier. Lovely to say hi to you here. Best time to meditate when you feel it. Nobody has a best time. Well, everybody has a best time. There are people who say, I cannot meditate on an empty stomach. And others say, oh, I need to meditate on an empty stomach. It doesn't matter. Meditation can be 5 minutes. It can be half an hour. It can be before going to bed. It can be when you just wake up in the morning. The thing is just to have a nice peaceful area, space, time, when you feel like it. Or when you feel, a very good time for me is when I suddenly feel, I'm getting sleepy. I could be watching the TV and I feel I'm getting sleepy and you just think, oh, I'd love a little snooze now. And that's a good time because it's easier to switch off.
Suzanne, we've got a controversial question. Carmen Sanchez from Spain asks, have you ever felt undervalued by doctors in your profession?
I've absolutely no attachment to the opinions of people that would offer their opinion on my profession, my job. It doesn't really matter. I always have an open mind, and if anybody wants to talk to me or question my work, I'm very, very open to help them, to discuss, to offer my opinion. So I think it's very, very important. Do what you feel is good for you and what makes you happy without any attachment to the result. Because not everybody is going to like you, not everybody is going to like what you do. So why put that pressure on yourself?
Very important question. Let's continue with another one. Susana from Mexico. How to accompany and help a sick person? And if he leaves us, how can we learn to live without pain?
Yeah. We've got to learn to accept that when a person dies, it was his or her time to go. I wrote a book lately. It's my last book, is Live in Peace, Die in Peace. In Spanish, Vivir en Paz, Morir en Paz. And it's to help people to understand the process of death, to help them to find their way to feeling peace, knowing that they are approaching the last moments or the last days. And a very, very important message is that when you die, when you leave your body, keep going forward, never look back, and you will find yourself in the process of going towards the other side, if you want to take it that way. So if we retain people, when they're dying and we say, oh, don't leave me, don't abandon me, then you are retaining that person in this dimension and they cannot go in peace. So we must accept that when we let somebody go in peace, and because it's their time, and we give them that peace and just say, hey, you've been a wonderful dad, you've been a wonderful mum. Or if there's something you want to say, I'm sorry about this, or I forgive you for that, that helps them to go in peace, because it's going to happen to us all. At some stage, we were born knowing that we were going to die at some stage, but especially when it's somebody so close to you, your mum, your dad, your child, that terrible pain or that suffering is just due to lack of knowledge about what's going to happen after that. And I can fully guarantee you that when a loved one dies, that 100% you are going to meet that person again in this afterworld. And it's 100%, because that is their duty to catch up again. And we will progress in our evolution with those family members. The same with your pets, your dog, your cat, your budgie. We all meet up again. And that is what's going to give us that peace of mind, knowing that it's just bye, see you soon, or not too soon, not so soon, right? We catch up again. It's okay, off you go. And I know that because I have been on the other side, and people who have died have come to visit me from the other side saying, hey, thanks for your help, or I need you to give a message to so-and-so. It's happened with friends. It's happened with family members as well. And I've given them that peace. And that's what I will do when my mum dies, finally, when my dad dies, when my family members die, then I'll catch up with them afterwards. And for me, it's going to be a blessing, because I know that they are going to be able to understand better my job, what I do, and that special capacity once they have gone to the other side.
Actually, Susanna, I think not long ago you did a conference in Spanish talking about that.
Yes, yes. live in peace, die in peace. Yes.
So let's continue then with another question. John from the USA says, my wife has cancer and the chemotherapy is not working. What therapy would you recommend us to try?
Okay. Well, in fact, one of the books that I've written is cancer. The rebirth cancer. Actually, in Spanish, it's easier to explain, but the word cancer in Spanish, if we turn the letters around, it's renace, which means rebirth. Okay. And it's turning the tables on cancer, giving it another look. So it's very, very important to understand why someone has cancer. There are various possibilities, but there is not just one sole reason. So we need to get back on track with healthy eating, a holistic style of treatment to help that person. So we need to get rid of all the things that could be causing a negative influence. When we do the Zen touch, we can find the root of the problem. Now, it depends on what city they are, but I do have contacts in the US. We did a course in New Jersey just last year. I can get you in contact with those people who did the course. So if you want to write to me on my email address, subaby22, SUBABY 22, at gmail.com, I can put you in contact with those people in the US. So healthy eating, food combining works brilliantly. Antioxidants. Don't sleep with your mobile phone, with your cell phone on your bedside table, and definitely not having it charging all night on the bedside table. Don't use those digital alarm clocks because they have a transformer that is influencing the nervous system. Try and avoid living nearby cell towers, electricity pylons, avoid toxic products for cleaning, avoid air fresheners, perfume, and all of those kind of things that are just like building up the toxic level in the body. Because we can do a detox program. We can eliminate those things. We can go and find peace. We can meditate. We can sing. We can dance. We can do things that make us feel more positive. But if you believe that you are going to die, your cells, your body cells, interpret that information and you go down that road. So your thinking process must cancel the fact that your fear is telling you you're going to die. So we got to get onto a positive way of thinking. And that's what I explain in the book, Cancer, Rebirth, el cáncer, el renacer.
We've got a lot of questions, so I'm trying to run. Marcela Valverde from Argentina. That's a Spanish question. So if you don't mind, I'm reading it first in Spanish and after that I'm translating it. Ser tu propio maestro tiene que ver con aprender a controlarse a uno mismo. So does being your own master have to do with learning to have control over yourself?
Okay, it's not so much just a sense of having a control over yourself, learning. It's more about unlearning, undoing a process of conditioning. It's about getting down to your innocent inner child and being more authentic to yourself, self-observation, being careful about what you say, what you think, because we're really like biological computers. And when we get the comprehension and the understanding of what will manifest in our lives is what we are creating or co-creating together. We can co-create in positive or we can co-create in negative. So we got to be more aware, self-awareness. So you're really unlearning all that conditioning that they've imposed on us. So it's a process of waking up.
All right, we have just 2 minutes left, but I'm trying to incorporate one question more. Marcela, as well, Canepa from YouTube says, how can we escape from the oppression we are living now with the present situation? That's a very good question.
Yeah, it would take a long time to answer all of that. Okay. We've got to think positive. We've got to create in positive. And we've got to think, what kind of a world do we want to live in? And we've got to concentrate and focus on the end result and not worry too much about the how we will do it. There is a law out there called cosmic law, karma. And if we do good, we are going to manifest good. So if we consider there are the bad guys out there, don't worry, they're going to go down the road of paying for their karmas. So we're at a stage now where there's a great revelation, and all that dirt and rubbish and junk that was beforehand, it was hidden and it was covered and was not exposed to us, is all coming to the surface like oil floating on the surface of water. So we're beginning to see what was always there, but we were living in ignorance. So what's really hurting now, most people, is to think, how could they do that to us? How could they get away with that? You know, all that corruption. Don't worry, it's coming to the surface because it's the process of waking up and we're coming to a state of awareness and consciousness, and together, getting together with love and projecting and focusing on the kind of a world we really want to live in, we are becoming empowered. And together, if we get together, we get our act together and we stand up for ourselves and say, no, we are not going to acquiesce to that. We are not going to consent, because we, as we are united, we are so powerful. And that 1% that thinks they are ruling the roost are then going to be, they're going to lose their power. Their false sense of power that they think they have now is really with the people. As we get together and we begin to say non-acquiescence, we're getting our act together and we're going to stand up for ourselves. And that's when everything flips.
Suzanne, we've got no more time, but thank you one more time for answering all these questions. Now let me tell you about the people that has been watching us today, because they joined us from Mexico, Argentina, Spain, Uruguay, the USA, Australia, Colombia, the United Kingdom, Peru, and a lot of countries more. So now I'm giving you, of course, a few seconds to say goodbye to all the people who has been watching and listening to us. And do you want to share some final thoughts for today?
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you as well to my friends and family in the north of Ireland. It's wonderful to be able to share with you in an English conference. And I just would like to say to everybody, stay connected, stay at peace, do things that make you happy, talk your talk, just keep positive focus, and everything's going to be okay. You see that man behind me, Gandhi? He says, you be the change that you want to see in the world. And that change that we want to see in the world is the change that will happen, first of all, within inside us, in our heart, in our mind. So we are really, really so powerful. We get together and everything's going to be okay. So let's stay connected. Everything's okay.
As I said at the beginning of this conference, it has been a real pleasure sharing this space with you, Suzanne. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you soon. And to you, dear friends of Mindalia, I just want to tell you that we've got radio in www.mindaliaradio.com with 24 hours of conscious information. Before saying goodbye, we also want to remind you that Mindalia.com is an international non-profit organization, and you can collaborate with us by liking our content, leaving us a positive comment, subscribing to our channel or different platforms, and of course sharing this video with someone else. Finally, if you want, you can donate through a link you will find in our website www.mindalia.com. By doing so, as you know, you help us to keep creating more content like the one you've seen today. And having said all of this and feeling really grateful, we are ready to say goodbye just for now until a next Mindalia live streaming. Bye bye. Thank you very much for sharing this space with us one more time.